Hey guys, Trap Chains here with some feedback and thoughts on the latest blog post of system design in Diablo 4, part 2, mainly focused on itemization by David Kim, lead systems designer on Diablo 4. So keeping in mind that none of this is set in stone, one important point is that, and I quote David Kim here, we don't want to create an exact copy of Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. So into the content now. This is the first potential changes being discussed, and that includes increasing the number of affixes on magic, rare, and legendary items, and 3 new stats. Angelic Power, which is meant to increase the duration of all beneficial effects. So this could be self-buffs, like increasing your damage or something, or healing and the like. Demonic Power, which is meant to increase the duration on negative effects that you cast. So this could be like a damage over time or a debuff, presumably something like a crowd control. And Ancestral Power, which is meant to increase the chance of on-hit effects, like a proc chance of something proccing for a certain skill. So firstly, I want to focus on the increase in the number of affixes on magic, rare, and legendary items. So this sounds like a good thing that, maybe the items will be more powerful and will have more affixes, and that's great. But I want to think about this in terms of random affixes, and it doesn't say whether they'll be random or not. In Diablo 3, we've got a lot of these random affixes, and whether your item rolls with some of these affixes is really important. Take, for example, a Yang's recurve in Diablo 3, that 12 discipline on the secondary is critical. If your Yang's rolls with this, like the primal on the left here, it's pretty much a good item because the other random stat you can change. If, however, your Yang's rolls like the one on the right with no max discipline on the secondary, the knockback on hit shown here, and a bad other random stat, in this case, resource cost reduction, it's not really fixable and can't ever be ideal. Now, this isn't particularly the number of stats, but the randomization of them. Now, compare it to Diablo 2. We've got a wind force shown here on the right. And that has a large number of stats, but they're not really random stats. They're never random stats. The only random part is the range. So you can't technically get a wind force that is a really, really bad wind force, like completely the wrong stats. So increasing the number of stats, to me, makes sense for things like rares and magic items. But with legendaries, I think it would be good to be a bit careful about it, in that increasing the stats is great as long as for something like a legendary item, they are set stats a la Diablo 2. One of the comments you hear often in Diablo 3 is, well, goodness, there's legendaries dropping all the time, but a lot of them aren't useful. So it'd be great to have them Diablo 2 style with those set stats, and therefore the more stats could actually be useful. Otherwise, overall, more stats make it harder to really get a perfect item, and therefore have more chance of resulting in a would-be good item, but except this stat here. At the same time, if that's the design intent, that it's really, really hard to get these, really great items, then perhaps that's fine. Now, onto the rest of the post, which is around this angelic power, demonic power, and ancestral power. I'm reading a lot of mixed feedback about these, and I don't really think there's enough information presented here to really provide enough feedback. To me, these could be good in that, look, they give some differentiation in builds and the like, and there's some prerequisites there which make it harder or an item's useful for multiple things. They effectively give some additional character building, so on that side it's pretty cool. But I worry that they could also be a bit restrictive, in that if I want to build a sorceress which is like got this ice and fire combo, could some of these things be connected to different things, which actually stops me or inhibits me from doing this crazy build that I've thought of, simply because I can't ever get enough of both angelic power and demonic power, depending on how it's set up. And that's why I say we don't really have the details to be able to unlock, let's say, the skill buffs that I need for that build. So overall, I think the general concept of this angelic power, demonic power, ancestral power is okay, but just the implementation, that it doesn't make anything too restrictive, that I can't build the certain build I want to build in terms of the skill combinations that I want to use, that I can't really optimize it because of, I need this much demonic power to do X on my sorceress, which technically means I can never get enough angelic power to do Y on that same sorceress. Okay, so moving into the attack and defense changes here, and I found this a little bit interesting because the attack defense changes that were listed included attack to only be on weapons, defense only on armor, and no attack defense stat on jewelry. Now, to me, the only significant change here is that there's no attack defense now on jewelry, and I did show a jewelry item with large attack defense in my previous video. So the problem is there's no real change, in my opinion, to the armor and the weapons, because from what we saw in the demo, and here's a couple of screenshots from my demo, the weapons only had plus attack and the armor pieces that I saw only had plus defense anyway. Importantly, from the blog post, we understand that these attack and defense stats are staying, which I think was a bigger concern raised, that they felt like very simple things, but it went back to David Kim saying the philosophy of easy to learn, difficult to master, they are helpful for that easy to learn part. So noting that they are remaining, having attack only on weapons, defense only on armor, even though it seemed like that already, is a good thing. Removing it off jewelry, I think, is also a positive move. Hence, my key feedback is pretty much, let's be a bit careful with how the numbers go on these, because definitely the numbers that we saw at BlizzCon compared to the numbers we were playing in the demo at some lowish level compared to the Mythic Amulet that we saw on screen where these attack and defense numbers were huge. It's watch the numbers on this. Do we need these attack defense numbers scaling to be really huge? Probably not. So keeping them at a smaller range would be a good thing. So the final thing in this systems design blog I wanted to comment on was this ancient legendary replacement, which is a change we saw from the initial systems design blog. And that includes that internal discussions have decided that they're probably going to remove ancient legendaries entirely from the game, but have a replacement of another potential, which is really interesting in that rares could be upgradable to legendaries with a specific affixed consumable which can be randomly found in game, like a random drop. Now this is kind of cool because it's like what I discussed previously, as if we had ancient legendaries, wouldn't it be cool that we could find some materials in game that we could use to upgrade our legendaries to ancient legendaries. So this is kind of cool, except it's upgrading from rare to legendary. So I think that's a great change in that it will make, if you get a rare that does have really good random stats, the potential for that rare to become a legendary if you can find the particular consumable with the right stats. So I think that's a really positive move, that we've got something that we can upgrade our rares to legendaries, which honestly just sounds really cool. This will definitely give rares that extra value to make them worth hunting for, worth looking over before you salvage them for materials, and give some more excitement to rares that you find and bring some more crafting into the game, particularly through what you find when out adventuring. So I think that's it for my feedback and thoughts on this systems blog post, itemization blog post. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and GG!